The Ensemble podcast is intended for professional financial advisors. This content is created in partnership with our sponsor, Net Wealth Investments Limited, ABN 85090 569 109, AFSL 230975, and is limited to publicly available information. Before acting on any general advice, you should consider whether appropriate and obtain financial advice from a qualified financial advisor. Ensemble does not hold an AFS license and does not provide any financial advice or services or endorse any general advice. If a PDS or IM exists, you should obtain a copy and review it thoroughly before making a decision.
AdviceTech. As if it wasn't enough to be across TMDs, Alpha, Beta, Rule of 72, and all the other nuances of financial advice. Now, advisors are expected to be across all the technology options too, and there's so many of them. But never fear, Peita D is here. Join me each week on a journey of discovery through the software and apps on offer for advisors and advice businesses. So let's dive in, fellow advice explorers.
This podcast is proudly sponsored by NetWealth. Imagine a world where you can offer clients access to local and international investments. A world where you can engage with clients meaningfully, backed by powerful data and insights with mobile-friendly technology. A world where you can build business efficiencies through scaled managed accounts and bulk reporting. And a world where you can get all the latest news, research and insights to spot the changes that really matter. Wealth is more than just money. It's about opportunity and progress. A world of opportunity awaits you at netwealth.com.au/woo.
Hello and welcome to the Ensemble AdviceTech podcast. I'm Peita Diamantidis, and the guest joining me here today to deep dive into Moneysoft is, well, something of a guru in the open banking space, so we'll make sure to pick his brain on that. Previously worked at Big Blue, or IBM to the rest of us, and has an engineering degree with majors in aerospace and avionics. Thank you so much for joining me on the show, Jon Shaw.
Thank you, Peita. Thank you very much. What an intro. I think that's the best one I've ever had. Wonderful.
Well,
thank you.
Well, thank you. And I've got to say, I can't believe as many conversations as we had at overseas conferences that it's never come up that you've got an aerospace degree.
Well, it's not really relevant, is it, in the world that we're in? But
I don't know, but it sounds pretty cool.
Yes, so, yeah. I pull it out from time to time and I dine out on it when it's appropriate, yes.
Exactly, particularly with the nerds. See, nerds like me think that's really exciting.
Thank you. It was fun to do. Yeah.
I'm sure it was. So before we pick your brain about Moneysoft, and there's lots to cover, I want to get to know you a bit better as a user of technology so all the listeners out there can get a feel for you. What is your most used emoji? Do you even use emojis?
I do use emojis, and actually it's an interesting question. And I have had a look through a couple of apps that I use just because, and we can be honest about it, that it's a posed question. So I actually looked through 3 apps, right?
Yeah.
To see what is my most used emoji.
Right.
And it's actually depends on the app, right? So I think in WhatsApp, it's thumbs up, tears of laughter, and fist pump. And then in SMS, it's thumbs up, tears of laughter, and love eyes, probably because I send SMSs to my wife, right?
Right.
And I think in email, it's tears of laughter, smiley face, and thumbs up. So thumbs up came up all 3 times, so it must be that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love, though, that it's a little different based on the audience.
Yeah,
right?
that's and the type of app
you're talking to. Yeah, exactly. Now, if we had to do away with all the apps on our smartphone, I mean, that's quite distressing to even say it, really, and you could only keep 3, which 3 would you keep?
It was a toss-up. It's a toss-up between WhatsApp and the SMS app. Like, I'm old-fashioned. I just like using phone as a phone, right? So
heavens to Murgatroyd, I can't believe it.
So it was a toss-up between WhatsApp and SMS, but I went with WhatsApp. So I'd definitely keep WhatsApp.
Mm-hmm.
I would keep my Firefox web browser. I'm an Android guy. I'll keep my Firefox web browser, and I'd keep my email app.
Yes.
And I presume we get phone for free, right? The phone app, we get that for free.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a given. The phone. Maybe it won't be going forward, right? Maybe we won't get a phone on our phone anymore.
Yeah, we might not. That's right. Yes. So that'd be those 3. So WhatsApp, Firefox, and the email app.
Kicking it old school. I like it.
Give me enough.
So let's dive into Moneysoft. So now, I'm figuring most people listening have at the very least heard of you guys, if not played with or used the app. But just for everybody's benefit, let's take it up a bit higher so we can understand where you guys sit.
Yep.
So in AdviceTech or FinTech, pick your tech space, what category do you guys normally fall under? Who are you generally lined up against when somebody's looking for a solution?
Sure. Yeah. Look, there's a few areas, and it depends on what the customer is looking for. The main ones are client portal and ongoing service portal, know your client and fact find, or KYC and fact find.
Yep.
And then process automation. That's sort of the three main areas that we fall into, and it will depend on what the customer is looking for as to who we're up against. So, client portal, surprisingly, is usually Xplan.
Yeah.
Right? It's not, who the usual suspects are. I mean, My Prosperity might be in there on the ongoing service side, but client portal is usually Xplan. KYC and fact find, Xplan Midwinter again. It's generally the traditional CRMs.
Yep.
Process automation, it's pretty rare that we fight anyone in that space. We generally have that nailed. So I'd say, but that's a higher level or a higher value part of the puzzle. So that's where we play, and generally who we're talking to customers about.
Okay, so, and I know, like, if you go onto your website, there is the opportunity for a member of the public to access Moneysoft, but I'm assuming really, the game you guys are at is channel partners. So it's going through to from advice firms right through to super funds and all sorts of people to provide that tool. So for, say, an advice term, what's the primary problem you guys are trying to solve for them? What's the thing they'll just be going, oh, this is fantastic. This is exactly what we need.
Yeah. Well, I'll start with the company vision. And the company vision really is to help close the advice gap. So there's a whole bunch of people out there. We know everyone. There's a lot of advisors who want the high net worths. They're lucrative clients. They pay the bills. But then there's a huge cohort of Australians, and this is true all around the world, of people who want financial advice but find it difficult to get because of the cost to service.
Yeah.
So where we're really trying to play is to close that advice gap, and providing features, functionality, capability that helps advisors do that in various ways, which may be understanding a client's cash flow and understanding how they might be able to execute a strategic plan to increase their wealth. It might be automating process and making just the the prospecting and then fact find process quicker, and removing all that double keying of data. So you make the process more efficient. It doesn't cost as much. You can offer it cheaper. And then for ongoing service, same sort of thing. You want to be able to service those less sophisticated clients, non-high net worths, in a way that's scalable and cost effective. So, really all of those things, client portal, know your client, fact find, data integrations, process automation, feeds into that closing the advice gap objective.
And I guess that's an evolution of how the advice industry has looked at these sort of tools, because I'm betting early on it was probably taken very much of, look, if you're in the game of cash flow advice or coaching, then sure, use this. But they probably hadn't got their head around the extent to which you can make fact-finding or accurate fact-finding a different prospect. So run us through that, because there will still be people out there who haven't fully understood that, these type of data feeds and this type of information can give you a really fulsome fact find.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the key part that we found with fact find, Peita, is the pre-population of data, and it's one of the main capabilities that Moneysoft's got that's probably hidden from most people. Apart from our enterprise customers like Link Group, as I was talking about earlier. So the pre-population of fact find and making that fact find process easier for clients does make it more accurate, because they'll have, most people, you and me included, will have an attention span of maybe 10, 15 minutes, right, where you're actually really getting to something. And that first 10, 15 minutes is where you concentrate on doing things properly. And then after that, it becomes, oh, God, help me, please just get through this, right? So pre-population of data is really important, and we pre-populate from Xplan and then synchronize back to Xplan. We can also pre-populate from other CRMs as well. So to sort of go back to your question on that, accurate fact find piece, we think the key is pre-population and making the client's job just to fill in the gaps, not to run through an entire fact find and do the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
That's where you lose clients. That's where they lose interest. That's where you get inaccurate data. So,
and to that point, then what you're talking about filling in the gaps is anything that you otherwise couldn't get by connecting a financial instrument, whatever that is. It could be their super account, it could be a bank account. So they connect all those things through to the app, and then it's just the other stuff. So anything that doesn't fit in that. Right, okay.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, so and that process automation, I mean, obviously we're talking, fairly advanced level here already, straight away. But the process automation that I spoke about right at the start, the very first thing that most people would know about Moneysoft is that we automatically collect financial account data, right? Which is a form of process automation. Instead of advisor or client service officer having to go out and ask the client for statements and balances and so on.
Yeah.
We just get it all in the client portal, and that can be pumped across into Xplan or whatever tool is being used by the advisor, and it's up to date to the day.
Yeah.
So yes, that can be used in fact find. It can be used across ongoing services and reviews and all sorts of things. And then there's a whole bunch of other process automation that can be added on top of that. Yes.
So then, because the other thing that I can see that's going to be powerful for is the affordability of insurance, for example, where, we've sort of been tasked over time with not just how much insurance do you need, but can they afford it? Which, bless their cotton socks, what a wonderful question to ask. Can they afford it?
Well, it's an excellent point.
Right. And so having data on hand that at least you can point to, well, there's certainly a gap, so there's certainly money available, or look, it might be a bit tight, but I can see here the $40,000 per annum spent on whatever the luxury item is.
Correct. Yeah.
Do you want to trade that off? Certainly makes that a more real conversation rather than, we've all experienced where the clients see, hey, how your expense level, what do you think it is? And to be quite frank, only 1% are ever within cooey of getting that right. People just aren't onto it that well, are they? None of us are really.
No, we're not. Look, I use Moneysoft every week, and I'm not really onto it until I look at it.
Yeah.
Then I know, right?
Yeah.
So that's absolutely true. And great point that you make about insurance. And I don't know whether you knew this already or not, and I don't think you did. But Peita, the founder of Moneysoft, who originally came up with the idea of automating, having this system to automate the analysis of cash flow to understand how much free cash flow there was, started in insurance advice.
Really?
And he did it for exactly the reason you just said. That is exactly why he invented Moneysoft in the first place. So,
and it's not just affordability, right? One of the things that's coming up all the time, your premiums are rising, people are struggling with it. And one of the most important things I think we can do for clients in that situation is tweaking features, on things like income protection. Well, it's very hard to talk through increasing a waiting period unless you can get a good sense of how their cash flow is going and whether that's realistic. Right. So to me, I'm pleased at how more intrinsically linked cash flow is now getting in the advice process, because it's sort of the beginning of it all, really.
Yes, yes, that's right. Yeah, and that's true. And I think another part of it that people forget is that some advice strategies will generate cash flow, and that's a great thing to show to the client as well.
Yeah.
Say, hey, there's some cash coming back in.
Yeah.
Right? And if you can actually demonstrate that and show how it affects their, the overall cash flow, it's a good thing. That's a way to demonstrate that as well.
And so if an advisor can, engages with a client, they sort of set up their appropriate connections to, their super funds and bank accounts and all that sort of stuff. And so it's feeding through. How far back so once that happens, I know there's a history you already get as part of that first sort of turn on. How far back is the data they get from day one sort of thing?
Transaction data can go back 365 days, 12 months, or anything in between 0 and 365 days, depending on what the business wants.
Right.
But our standards are either 90 days or 365 days.
Yeah.
Which we just switch on according to what the business wants. That's for transaction data.
Yep.
Balance data is from the day the account is linked forward. We can't get historical balance data yet. We might be able to get it with open banking.
Yeah. Okay. And look, it's an interesting concept, because I know, look, cash flow coaching or whatever you choose to call it is a different game, and it's a different way of engaging. And when we started looking at it, the thing that the dread was about, okay, you start engaging with somebody now, but you can't really have an impact for months because you've got to collect a whole lot of information initially. Like there's a let's watch and see what you do. So being able to get transaction history back for up to a year means there's no waiting. It's like, okay, let's take a look at the transactions in and out. What's been going on, and so that sort of takes out a whole chunk of what would otherwise be torturous for both the client and us.
That's right, yeah.
Sort of monitor them over time. So I do think it's something I know I didn't realize was part of the sort of wins that you get with this sort of information. And of course, the way you analyze that, I'm betting, can be quite superficial, top down, or can actually be in a detailed fashion bottom up. Yeah. What's the usual, is there a usual way advisors approach that, or do you find it's pretty evenly split?
The ones who look at 12 months worth of data, funny enough, generally go down into more detail.
Okay.
And the 3 months worth is usually high level, just give us a general picture of where you're at and we'll extrapolate that and assume that's how you operate.
Yeah.
And we do have tools in the system that help advisors. So the ones that get detailed will generally have their own set of custom categories. So they'll have their own chart of accounts that they categorize the transactions with. And on top of that, they will generally put in their own categorization rules into their, across their client base. So we're able to do that sort of process automation for them.
Yep.
Which takes away a lot of the pain of having to go through client by client, categorize the transactions, make them do it, and then work out where their cash flow is. So we can really help automate that and make that a little quicker. But it takes a bit of work from the business themselves and with us to get that in place. But it's well worth it.
Once you do it, right? Once you do these things once, I'm a big believer in those things. There's some of these things that are torturous once, but then once they're done, it makes everything easier. And the thing I like about that expression, your own chart of accounts, is it can become part of the language of the way you talk to clients about this,
that's right.
And that's where it gets powerful. It's really hard when it's bespoke every time. And that's probably something that we struggled with, that we found hard. And I probably am about halfway. I reckon, your own sort of practice chart of accounts, but then I always ended up picking one thing that we broke out for a client because it was their one disastrous thing. It's a shocker.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So you can have a custom category for the client, but in terms of real power users of Moneysoft, the ones that do it the best, will generally have their own chart of accounts, and it's locked down.
Yeah.
And they say, this is how we actually look at your cash flow, and they'll tell the client how to do it. So Moneysoft's not coming along and telling the businesses how to do it. We have defaults.
Yeah.
But we generally allow our customers to be very creative in the way that they use the software and impose their own process.
Mm-hmm.
But the best users will impose their process on their clients.
Yeah.
And I would strongly recommend doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense.
Don't let the client dictate how it's analysed. You tell them.
Exactly. Well, because it's interesting, the logical way, and there's, everybody's seen a budget and the way things are broken down. That's great, but logic doesn't necessarily drive emotion. And a lot of this is about identifying emotive categories to me.
Totally.
And so and you're right, determining that for your client base or for your niche that you're targeting is really important, because you've got to be able to match that. It can't be too vanilla. It can't feel too distant. It's got to feel connected with however else you're talking to them about what they need to do.
That's exactly right. And that's generally what the most successful customers of ours do that.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
So in terms of the individuals within a practice that are then sort of engaging with Moneysoft, do you have, some practices it's just the advisors, some it's the whole team? How is that sort of running now that you've been around a while now? So I'm imagining you're really embedded in some practices. Talk me through the difference there.
Look, I don't think I can really give you a structured answer on that, because it's the businesses are very different. I can't give you a structured answer in terms of the position of the people that we interact with. But what I can tell you is that the ones we interact most with are the ones that are very much focused on their service focused versus the old okay client, here's a tool, you're on your own, and I'll come back and give you some service. And we still do have a fair few customers that come along and want to use the software like that and believe that putting the software in front of clients will give them some sort of advantage. And it may, but it's marginal.
Yeah.
And I generally don't like to take those kinds of customers on anymore because I know it will usually fail. But the very service-focused ones who are saying, okay, we're asking you to pay us X hundred, X $1,000, whatever it is. We're going to make sure this works for you.
Right.
That's generally the stance of the people that we're dealing with all the time.
Yeah.
And they might have a admin assistant, client service officer, offshored people. It could be the advisors themselves, depending on the size of their business. But they're all doing the same thing. They might not hold the same position, but they're doing the same.
Yeah. And I think that's something that you've probably witnessed this even more than I have working with practices is one of the things they struggle to get their hands or their heads around is, you can have somebody that's either in the support team or like you say, offshore, follow a whole lot of rules in a system like Moneysoft and then flag exceptions or other things to the advisor as they come up.
Correct,
that you don't have to be doing every tiny bit yourself.
That's right.
And that's when these things can get really powerful. And we've sort of applied that across all of our tech usage. We've engaged a lot of people that'll get it to a certain point and then highlight anything they can't solve or anything that stands out to the advisor and then, off the advisor goes. So
that's right. It's a hygiene process, right?
Correct.
It's really a hygiene process. So
correct.
You get someone to carry out the hygiene process and then you can, as the business owner or the advisor can concentrate on the higher value activities. Yeah.
And look, we can tell ourselves, but how are they going to catch that special thing that only we can catch? Like, well, my view is if you write your rules well enough for them, they will catch it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's about you. Correct, right? Taking it out of your brain, the process you're using, and then writing it down well enough. And
we do help customers with that. And, that's part of the onboarding process that we provide. We recognise that is a key piece of the puzzle. And we provide the free trial period. And that's really the purpose of it, so that we can, A, make sure that the customer who's trialing Moneysoft has that sort of mindset. So we know, yes, okay, this will be successful. And then B, help them along that path and give them tips and tricks and show this is how our successful customers do it. Here's the work instruction almost pre-written for you.
Yeah, exactly. So if somebody's considering a tool like this, then, is there anything you'd suggest they do before, onboarding the tool before, like, is there any prep work or heads up you'd give of people that have done it successfully versus not that you think the practice could do?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that really comes down to the service that you are either currently providing or propose to provide. Have a very good handle on what that service process map looks like.
Yeah.
Have a very good handle on what the tasks are that need to be carried out, what the inputs and outputs are, and the processing tasks are as part of that service offering. And then ask yourself, okay, or ask us, can a tool like Moneysoft help with this process? And that's really where the most successful usage of tools or any technology really comes from. Do a bit of prep work like that. See, think of what you're going to use it for and how it might give you benefit, then dive in.
Yeah.
But it won't expose itself just by going and trialing Moneysoft and, there's some great bells and whistles and features.
Yeah. And look, I'm going to be completely honest with the audience here. That's exactly what we did ages ago is I tinkered because I'm, tech curious, like fatally tech curious. So it's like, I want to play with this. Looks great. But what we didn't have yet was, what is the problem I'm trying to solve for the clients? And so we did put some clients through it. They got immense value, but we hadn't yet got to the point where I had this is the offer I want to deliver. This is the gap. Therefore, what fits?
You have to systemize it. That's right. Yeah,
exactly.
And just to sort of be clear, we have absolutely no problem with someone coming and doing what you just described. Come and have a look at the software, get some ideas. No problem. That's absolutely cool. But just set your expectations accordingly.
Exactly. And I completely agree. And I think that's the thing. And look, it may actually be if people are sort of embarking a bit early on in that sort of cash flow world or any of the other ways that we'll talk through, people can apply the tool. Sometimes it is a matter of trying it out for a few clients, right? I mean, that's valid. But I completely agree. What stalled us was we didn't then go, all right, well, stop. What is the offer going to be? We ended up on other projects and all sorts of other distractions. So for us in our future project plan, the first step is then going to be what is literally the consumer experience we want to design, and where does a tool like this fit, right? And what do we want it to do? Because for some clients, what was interesting in some of the testing we did, for some of them, they never really looked at the app at all. It was us. It was all about our data and what we needed. And I think that's a bit of a switch for advisors too, right?
That's right. And clients are very much the secondary user of tools, of PFM tools. Yeah. And it's important that everyone realizes that the client is the secondary user, and they will always be, except the really, OCD ones, but they're not that prevalent, right?
Exactly. And that is a difference. I think we can get really obsessed with, but wouldn't it be great if they looked all the time at but they're not going to.
No, it's not happening. Yeah.
No, there's all sorts of other notifications on their phone they're going to look at first.
That's right. Yeah. Clients want advisors and coaches to come to them and tell them what they need to do.
Yeah.
Just give me the instructions. What do I need to do? Like, you're the expert. Give me the expert advice and the expert instructions, and I'll go do it. And then I don't want to have to worry about it anymore. That's what I'm paying you to do. Right?
Yeah. Exactly.
That honestly is the attitude and how it should be looked at.
Yeah. So to that end, let's talk about sort of the end client experience as opposed to the advisor client or practice client. Yep. Then, when we use the word client portal, there's now, portal is the new black for 2023, right? It's become this thing we're all talking about. So to help people understand, what elements you guys have or don't have from a client portal perspective, then clearly, okay, we've got the cash flow and all this information that's coming through. Great. What else is there in terms of the way you can interact with a client via the tool?
Yep, sure. We have various ways to communicate. So there's emailing, there's automated reports. So you can send custom alerts straight out of the software if you're logged in there as the advisor and the user. So there's plenty of communication options.
Yep.
Obviously, a great way to communicate is just by showing relevant information straight on the dashboard.
Yep.
Which we are very much focused on, and you want to keep information that you're putting in front of the client. In my view, being an engineer, I like the KISS principle.
Yeah.
You've got to keep it nice and simple for the client so that they can see, this is where I'm at. What do I need to do? Now, there are some more advanced ways of communicating, and we have some customers who use the transaction notes in the transactions list to communicate with clients, and they use a custom category. So, for example, they might categorize a transaction as client note, then put a transaction note on each of those transactions that they've categorized that way, and all the client has to do is log into Moneysoft, find the client note transactions, and categorize them to what they need to be. But all of the rest of the work's done for them. So you can use some process means of communicating too, if you're smart about it.
Right.
And most people don't really want to be bombarded with messages all the time. And I think that is an absolute cracking way of dealing with clients, the way that this particular customer has come up with, because the client knows I can log in whenever I like. All I've got to look for is this set of transactions. And once I do that, my work's done.
Yeah. I've done my homework.
Yeah.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Sure.
And they get automated reports sent out to them I think they do weekly, that particular customer, and they do some weekly, some monthly, and some quarterly.
Yep.
So that's really where the client's getting then their key communication is in those reports. Here's how you're tracking to the things that we have spoken about and that we care about. But otherwise, all you have to do is log in, look for this particular category of transactions and read the note against it and do what's asked.
Awesome.
Right.
So then in terms of the other elements of a client portal, and we're using that really broadly, then I'm assuming, Moneysoft isn't designed to be the document signing, the document vault, any of those sort of things, that it's really about the data.
Yeah.
You do?
No, we do. Yeah, so we do document vault. We've got a DocuSign integration.
Okay.
But it's not our key focus. We understand that is part of the process automation mix.
Yeah.
So it's in there. It's definitely in there. And we actually, at the end of the fact find, we'll pump out a fact find document in PDF, and that gets shot across to the client in DocuSign for sign-off, right?
Yep.
So we really look at those integrations as part of process automation. We have been asked for the ability to send PDFs through the Moneysoft portal and DocuSign integration for signature of other types of documents, and we've got that on the roadmap, so that'll come. So that's there. Your X-Plan integration, document vault. If we're talking along those lines, we don't want to store the documents.
Yep.
This is still an internal, let's say, debate I'm having with the development team. I think it's much smarter to outsource that to a Google Drive or a OneDrive, Microsoft OneDrive or a Dropbox, or all three. So that'll probably be some more integrations that we do where we say, okay, they look after the document vault over there. That's what they do really well.
Yeah.
We're going to do the process automation really well, but we'll use all these other bits and pull them all together so that, and on your subject of client portal, that's really our philosophy. We started off with pulling a whole bunch of bank accounts, superannuation funds, credit cards, loans, all together in one place. So we'll keep pulling stuff into one place. Yeah. But we don't want to change where you have to store your documents. Like I put all my stuff in Google Drive. I want to keep it there. Yeah. I don't want to put it in Moneysoft. I want to keep it in Google Drive. But we'll stick to the aggregation of data and stuff into a single place, right? And I think that'll be how we ultimately do it.
Awesome. And so then for the way practices are then utilizing it, that example you're given where it's, basically the client has some homework, right? It's like, okay, this has come through. We don't know what the hell that transaction is. We need you to identify it. Yeah. Are there, and that sort of sounds like to me one extreme in terms of it's quite regularly interactive, and I'm imagining that's in that first we need to resolve some stuff process. Like it's that early, wow.
It's actually an ongoing process for that particular customer. They're really hands-on.
Yeah,
They service their clients heavily. They're mostly debt recycling side, but they do. Anyway, sorry.
No, not at all. No, that's helpful. So that'll be some. I'm imagining there's others that maybe it's more about at review time, whether that's every 6 months or whatever it is, where they're using it as like an update. So it's like, okay, how are you traveling? Is that fair? Is that a fair description of how practices are using it?
I think it's close. I think you're on the right track for sure. So I think what would be more relevant to most practices and most listeners is that a lot of our customers who do have a lot of clients on board on the software will generally look at the high level. They'll have their own custom report that tracks particular KPIs against the plan that they set for the client. And this is generally sort of fairly cookie cutter plan for, they'll have different client types, right? And there's certain client types that go into Moneysoft. They've got a cookie cutter plan, but they don't worry about the transactions and so on. They actually say, well, if you want to run a budget and keep on track to the goals that we've set to you in Moneysoft, and keep on track to your debt reduction plan or whatever the case may be, you go in and budget yourself, right? We're not going to budget for you. You use that tool to help you achieve the outcomes that we're setting and reporting. Yeah. And I would say that's probably the most scaled usage of Moneysoft, that type of use.
Yeah, okay. Because it is I think it's because there's a wide variety, isn't there? There's the people that like a bit of a disaster, right? Where you're going to have to point out the 12 different things they need to specifically change. You may even have to give them ways to change them. It's a lot of behavioral stuff. Whereas for many people, I'm betting it's the insights really the trigger. It's just understanding where they were and where they got to, and has what they've embarked on moved the dial. Like has it changed? And I think actually it's probably a bit healthier anyway. I think about the relation, a similar thing with diet. I'm never, like, I watch people when it's that whole really narrow calorie counting thing, and it can become unhealthy, like mentally unhealthy really quickly. And I think it's the same with money. I think it can become really unhealthy.
That's right.
Yeah. Whereas that overarching, oh, good, progress made or plateaued, sort of feedback, I think, is probably healthier for the individual, and they can find their own. Now, maybe you could support it with some behavioral exercises that somebody could do, tips and tricks, how you might, expand the gap between what you earn and what you spend. But I think that sort of middle ground just seems a little bit, it also puts a lot of onus back onto the client, because really this is their spending. They're the one that's standing.
Totally. It's got to be teamwork. Yeah.
Right.
That's right. And I think that's another tip that I would provide in terms of tips for success is that the customers that I see that do really well with Moneysoft and this sort of process automation and this scaled type of advice offering, they actually reject some clients too. They'll say, "No, you're not right. You're not ready.
Yeah.
We're not here to wipe your butt for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, you've got to be part of this team. Make it work. We'll give you the tools and we'll tell you where you've got to go and set your plan for you, but you've got to execute. Right?
Yeah.
We're not executing for you."
No, and it is an important realization, I think, for any type of work, whether it's this or financial advice in other spaces, is, a client who sees themselves at the beginning as a victim, in terms of like things happen to me, not, I happen to things. That's a red flag.
Yeah.
Right? That's a big red flag. And it's, we're definitely there to help, but just tell me what to do. I don't know about this stuff. It's like, yes, you do. You've got money in your wallet or you've got your card, you know enough.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And look, there's got to be direction at some level. So, okay, this is where we need to get to. That's your next task, your next bit of homework, your next, mini objective.
Yeah.
Off you go and hit it. Right?
Yeah.
And I think that actually gives both parties a lot of satisfaction. You're working as a team. The clients see that they can achieve it, and it feeds on positivity. So it's a good way to approach it.
For sure. So I am curious about something. This is a bit out of left field. I haven't prepped you for this. So I apologize in advance. You guys now have a whole lot of, individuals or families or whatever into the system. Are you starting to get any broad sense of, the average that people are spending on this as a % of income or, that sort of stuff? Are you starting to see that sort of data?
Yeah, we actually already have it. We've got a benchmarking report in Moneysoft.
Okay. Awesome.
Already. So in terms of that behavioural change that you were talking about, Peter, there are quite a few of our customers that use that benchmarking report for that purpose.
Yeah.
Where a client might think, hey, I'm not spending much at the TAB or on shoes or, going out to restaurants or whatever. Well, have a look what everyone else does.
Yeah.
So there's your benchmark. So you're double, right? Well, at least come back to 20% more.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, so there are tools in there, and yes, of course, we've got a heap of data that we can use to benchmark on. It's a matter of actually running those analytics and the data science process to update it from time to time.
Okay.
What we've got in there is, perhaps a little bit old. We could update it possibly in the next few months, but we already do that. Yeah.
Look, and I think AI and all sorts of other things are going to start to help make those things really deeply relevant. It'll be rather than broad averages, they'll get narrow and, all that sort of stuff I think will start to come out because we tell ourselves stories about, but I'm just like everybody else. Surely everybody's doing these things. And so many of those stories are just way off base.
Yes.
And I see that a lot actually funnily enough, with food as a spending item. Lots of, but everybody spends like this. You're like, no. There's only two of you and you're spending, even just grocery shopping, you're spending at a family of 6 rate. Like,
Yeah. I just had a similar conversation with my wife just the other day. Funny enough.
And the thing is, it's funny because people go, but who are you to judge? Not judging. So I never judge that stuff, but it's doing it. Be informed. If you are going to spend that way, do it because you know exactly. Like, no, we love getting only organic this or meat direct from the farm or my husband and I fall firmly into that category. We're massive foodies, so our dollars absolutely. But it's knowing the dollars and how that reflects. Yeah,
and you may spend more in one area and less in another, and that's okay. It all balances out. That's fine.
Exactly.
But like you said, having that information to hand is what allows you to make smart decisions.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I think it alleviates misdirected guilt. So I think when you make the conscious choice, you're like, "What? But I really love that thing." I think it can take away the guilt you might feel. That's potentially inappropriate. Maybe you feel guilty about that thing over there that you don't even know you're spending on.
That's right. It's a junk you bought that's just going to go in the bin.
Exactly.
But of course, that's right. And you've got to have a healthy relationship with money and the way that you spend. And what do we go to work for and earn? And it's there to enjoy to some extent, but you also want to build wealth. So you just get the balance right. And that's I think is a really important point if advisors or coaches are going to go into that realm. That this is not, it's not all stick. In fact, it's mostly carrot.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the way you've got to approach it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I've been speaking to somebody recently who's done a lot of work through reading Barefoot Investor, right? And I mean, kudos to them. They've really gone hard, which is great. But it's actually really demoralized them because there's no carrot, right? Sorry, that's not fair. There is this to a certain extent, but they've been so focused on the frugality.
Right, yeah.
There hasn't been a why. Like, why the hell are we doing this? Like,
that's right.
You know, like it's we're not doing things and continuing to not do things and even not do things for our kids potentially. And so
miserable.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're right. It's that balance. It's getting it so that actually it then drives you into other behaviors, better behaviors over and over again because it feels good.
Yeah, that's right. It's that positive reinforcement. The positivity feeds on itself. Achieving something, okay, you've given something up, you've made a change, and you've got a great outcome. Okay, let's go again. I'm ready to try again.
Exactly. Now you've touched on integrations, but I just want to make sure we've sort of caught them all. Then you talked about Xplan is one of the things that you guys integrate with. So.
Yes, Xplan. We've got a few integrations with Xplan actually.
Okay, and so what level? Because I think people probably don't understand actually that an integration isn't a one size fits all sort of experience.
Right.
But tech. Right. So talk us through that. So how does that differ in terms of the different places you might integrate with Xplan?
Yeah, look, I'd probably just keep it to two areas.
Yep.
One being CRM, which is the fact find data, and the other being the portfolio system, IPS. So that's all of your balances and transaction data.
Yeah, okay.
So anything that's in Moneysoft, including property values, will go across into Xplan to complete the client's portfolio in IPS, and then any data in the Moneysoft fact find can be pumped into Xplan as well. And of course, we totally customize the fact find according to whatever the client wants. But they're the two main areas. We do have a budget integration, which is quite an old one.
Yep.
And have been around for a long time, but definitely the two most used are the CRM and IPS integration.
Okay, perfect. So then outside of Xplan, who else do you guys integrate with?
Midwinter, same deal as Xplan, same sorts of data. We integrate with Fin365.
Yep.
We integrate with DocuSign. We integrate with Link Group's CRM, which is a superannuation administration platform. That's probably more internal for them, but it is there. Who else have we got? There's Dash, who's about to. I might be speaking out of turn, actually. So the Dash
we won't tell anybody, will we? Yeah.
Dash integration's done. That's waiting for an announcement.
Yep.
And Xeppo.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic.
So they're the ones off the top of my head. There'll be a couple more.
Perfect. Well, and I'm betting that if somebody's uncertain or really is using the tool and therefore can think of something that they'd like to integrate, they should just ask, because it may not be possible now, but it might be something down the track that you guys could factor in. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And actually, I always forget about this, but another integration that we have is with a payment gateway called eWay. And part of our roadmap and plans for the future is to expand that integration to allow advisors to take payments straight through the software from their clients.
Fantastic.
Instead of having to invoice them separately. So that's something that the Americans, which listeners may not know that we launched in the US, but that's something our American friends are really keen on.
Yeah.
And it's quite prevalent in the US that the software platforms allow the professional users to do that. So it's in fact a feature that we're going to need to get out to be successful over there.
Okay. And so just to get a sense of what they otherwise would have to do aside from through a dealer group, it's like a Stripe. Is it an alternative to Stripe or something like that?
eWay is global payments platform.
Cool.
I think typically it's called.
Okay.
Or global payments. So it's the same as a Stripe.
Yep.
So it'll just mean you can create a website, sign up to this package, put your credit card in, take payment, and
off you go.
The whole payment chain just happens automatically.
Yeah, nice. And look, I think there is going to be more of that as the way we charge and what we charge for evolves in advice.
Yeah.
We're going to need to have easier ways to do this stuff. We make it inordinately hard at the moment.
That's right. Again, it just makes sense from a process efficiency point of view. You're pulling out a whole bunch of manual work, and you're also not having to chase bills.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
That's all good. That's right.
Absolutely. Now, in terms of the practices you're currently working with, is there anything you think that people don't take enough advantage of? Like you think, oh, they could really get some value out of this particular feature or element of the app?
I think in terms of standard feature, I would say goals.
Right.
It's probably not used as much as it could be. And the customers that do use it really heavily and successfully.
Right.
So goals, I think, is just as a standard feature a really good one. As an add-on feature, and in fact, we do scheduled reporting for free as part of a standard subscription. So scheduled reporting would be another standard feature that is possibly not used as much as it could be, and is very, very helpful to customers. Then there's custom reporting. So, I've got a particular type of report that I like to send to my clients. It's a standard one across my client base. Hey, Moneysoft, can you create this and have it pump out of the software automatically? Yes, we can.
Okay.
So that's a real big one. And then getting a bit higher up the chain to the more advanced users, just single sign-on. So, if you've got your own website that you have customers log into, they can automatically be logged into Moneysoft through single sign-on. So we provide single sign-on capability. And in fact, we do that for free as well. You have to develop it, but you get the feature for free. So, give your clients that sort of thing. And then we get into, obviously the integrations, Xplan in particular, integration with FactFind. I think, there are customers that use that very, very successfully.
Yeah.
And once it's in place, it saves a heck of a lot of time. Pain, a heck of a lot. Yeah. So getting up the value chain here, I'd say that'll be next cab off the rank. And then it's, for the really, really advanced customers, it's our API. We've actually got several customers that write their own apps over the top of our API. So they put Moneysoft features in their own app. And clients don't even see the word Moneysoft anywhere.
Okay.
But they use all of our capabilities inside their own app.
Yeah, okay. So you're all about the data and the analysis, and they're putting a skin.
Yeah, they put their own skin in. And if you've got the right amount of scale, I obviously wouldn't recommend doing that or even white labeling until you hit the right level of scale.
Yeah.
But once you are up around the 500 to 1,000 client level, and you want features that you're putting in front of your client base, it becomes a bit of a pain to have to rely on a supplier to do that for you.
Right.
So write your own app, put a skin over the top of yours, and you're a lot more nimble. You can put things in front of your clients, as and when you please.
And it really does start to make it such a wonderful user experience then too, so the things that you can do and the way it can look and all that sort of stuff. I mean, it's something that we never really get that far down in a lot of financial advice stuff, but I think it can make a huge difference to the way people engage. So, that's exciting that you guys have that capability. We all just sort of need to get off our butt and get to that point. So
it's a progression, right? It's a progression. Yeah. So, we're talking about some very advanced things here. So, but we have all of the out of the box capabilities that will give a huge amount of value to users, and then it's just a matter of working your way up the chain, and you'll stop where it makes sense for you to stop, or you'll keep going, right?
Yeah.
So, and the natural progression of going all the way would be get rid of Moneysoft and do your own integration with financial account data aggregators and deal with all that crap yourself, right?
I don't think I'm ever going to be up for that.
No one's gone there yet.
No, that sounds like a disaster. Oh, goodness. But I'm interested, you mentioned single sign-on, and it's something that I think we probably underrate a little in advice because I don't think we look at our own behaviors enough with this stuff. Like, what do I love about using Kindle and having books via Amazon? It's the single click. Yep. And the thing is just in my iPad, it's, and so, single sign on, even if it's through something else and it matches, like that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
A huge difference to the likelihood of somebody being willing to go in, the ease with which they do, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Never forget to put yourself in the boots of the client.
Yeah.
And what it's like for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So then, looking into the future. So first of all, there must be some things that are just on the development path so that you guys have planned. But then I'm sort of curious about any wish list items that would be lovely to get to. So start with the reality. What's coming up?
Okay. Well, we have open banking coming out in June. So we've worked with Yodlee to get that done. We've got the accreditation. We are hosting our environments in link groups, so we'll be under the same regime as superannuation data in terms of privacy and security. So these are some really sort of back-end big wins that we're getting, which will give our customers and their client base a lot more comfort around security and data privacy.
Nice.
So that's a big one, and we're really concentrating on that. New mobile apps are coming out in June, July, right? Lining up with the open banking. So the mobile apps will be a lot more feature-rich, a lot more usable, and we'll shift towards mobile-led development. I won't say mobile first, but mobile-led. Yeah. So we'll really look at how we get that in. Obviously, international has started, and we're working on that. So that means we've got international data as well.
Nice.
And that's probably the most interesting thing for the Australian audience. Probably don't care that we're in the US or the UK, but we've got international data feeds. So that may be something that we put out. But in terms of futures and where we want to be, probably next cab off the rank will be a debt reduction calculator or tool. That will go to be sort of half report, half in-app tool.
Yep.
There will be a communications channel. So we really want to do in-app chat and integrate that in with document e-signatures and so on. So you can actually do, and I'm a really big fan of not forcing someone to come and meet when it's convenient for you. Get into the portal, leave a message for the client, they get a notification to their phone, they come back when they're finished work and they do what they've got to do, right? You don't have to sit there at the same time as each other. So that's really the thrust behind that one, having the in-app chat and the communications channel. And then finally, there will be some developments around retirement income covenant. Income. So
exciting. Okay, so more than just the reality of their current data, it's all what would be possible or what's it going to look like in the future sort of stuff. So that's which is exciting because the I'm always wary of really complex forecasts for clients because there's too many assumptions, and the minute you get more than one, it becomes something that is, as long as a piece of string and all that sort of stuff. So I love simple tools that just give them a really, once again, that sort of thumbs up, thumbs down of where they're at.
We're working with Link Group on that, obviously, them being in the superannuation space and servicing the super funds. So their solution will be really complicated.
Yeah,
no doubt about it. and we'll help them with that. But then we're going to take the bits and stick to the KISS principle, as I said, and put something in general Moneysoft that will provide at least a tool that can be used by the individual.
Awesome, perfect. Now, is there anything else we've missed? Any elements that we've missed of the tool, or I
don't think so, Peter. And it's been a real pleasure talking to you. The audience probably wants us to stop now, so
I don't know. I don't know. You're underrating them.
I think we've covered everything, and it was a great chat. Thank you very much.
Not at all. You're very welcome. All right, Advice Explorers, if you'd like to find out more about Moneysoft, then the website link is in the episode show notes, along with Jon's LinkedIn details. So I'm sure if you just nudged him, he can point you in the right direction of who should look after you and can do a demo, all those sort of things that you should do. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm excited to hear where you guys have got to since I last saw Moneysoft, and can't wait to see what's happening down the track. So best of luck in the future.
Thank you.
So are you a current user of Moneysoft? I know there's a number of you out there. Perhaps you've just started or you've been using it for a while. I know the wonderful Adele Martin uses the tool really well. So I'd love to hear what everybody thinks, what their feedback is on the tool. Please head over to the Ensemble community platform and share your insights. I personally would love to hear your take. In terms of my thoughts, then I think it's really powerful to think about the way instant insights into a client's positioning or situation outside of, say, just an investment account or a super account, how valuable that can be. right? And there's so many parts of advice where that can be valuable. We spoke about, the affordability advice being one. You could make a tool like this just a core part of your insurance offering. And I know that's not necessarily something a lot of us would think, but I think you could really take advantage of getting confidence about the cash flow that is available. Similarly, with somebody's updated, wealth position, including, their, cash accounts and things like that. So I do think we've got an opportunity to use these tools well above or beyond cash flow coaching or monitoring. However, I do think all of us should take us a moment to consider what cash flow monitoring or coaching or other, offerings we could provide to clients to really get their confidence around the way they spend money. Remembering, to invest and get a return, you have to have money to invest, and so for many people, that's not as easy as it might sound. And in the current environment, people are struggling with, the hip pocket getting hit by a whole lot of things, including interest rates. So, these sort of tools are absolutely well worth considering. And, they are benefiting from, overseas interest, the US, Jon's making progress over there in the UK. We can benefit from a tool from here going further into the advice markets or other markets over there. So, this is something, and there are other tools that do these feeds, but I think we all should just take a moment to consider how we might be able to position it in our practice and then go and ask them, put that idea to them and see how they might set it up, how many users you would therefore need, how many logins, what it will cost, all those sort of things. So, I'd really challenge each of our thinking on what we imagine a tool like that is. It's not just money coaching. It's not, cash coaching. It's, we think broader, think bigger, and really imagine how this could become a core part or a core tool in what you're doing. And like Jon said, your client may never look at it. Right. The minute we stop it being about what the client does with it, and what it becomes what we can do with it, what that data can do for the service we offer, I think that's when you'll get really creative. I would love to hear your ideas. I'd love to hear what you've already come up with, because I think there's some magic we can all work in that space. Now, as you know, if you've listened to any more episodes before this one of the AdviceTech podcast, there is only one skill we need to become true bionic advisors, and that's just avid curiosity. Now, to help you build that habit, today's Curiosity Corner app that I'd love you to take a look at is Muse. You can find it at Muse app, that's museapp.com, and their tagline is diving into big ideas. Now, I've just got to laugh because actually when I typed up the note about this, it said diving into bog ideas, which I'm pretty sure is not the tagline. So please excuse me for getting momentarily distracted by my own, bad spelling. But we've chatted on the podcast before about brainstorming tools, like things that can help you come up with ideas or collaborate with team members. What's interesting is what makes Muse a bit different is that it's got this concept of nested boards, a board being like a whiteboard. Like imagine you're brainstorming, right? And then you've got your whiteboard. You might start brainstorming about, say, your whole advice process, and it's all up there on the whiteboard. Then you decide, we're going to deep dive into risk profiling, say, as one step. Well, you could have a nested board inside that bigger whiteboard we're talking about, a nested board just for the brainstorming that you do on risk profiling. Sort of imagine it as a layer below the original board that covers just that one topic in a much deeper fashion. Basically, nested Muse boards let you sort of dive in and out of ideas with this sort of zooming interface. And since sort of everything in Muse is laid out really visually, then file names or document titles or any of that just isn't needed, right? You're going to be able to find what you're looking for just because of this particular nested board layout. So when you make a new board, you can just start putting down your thoughts and ideas. You don't sort of have to organize it too much or get too structured with yourself. And you can give it a name later, right? When you actually know what it's about. Sometimes the idea is just there and you're not sure actually what you need to call it. This is absolutely an app for anyone out there who struggles with the structure of most brainstorming tools. Maybe you need something that's a little more free-flowing. So let me know if you check it out and how you go with it. But this is another different type. If you've struggled with other ones, Miro or other boarding tools online, then this could be another one that might just work for you. Well, That's all we've got for this week, folks. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you'll get your Advice Tech fix automatically sent to you each Friday. And look, if you're still feeling pretty overwhelmed about where to start on your Advice Tech journey, then I'd really encourage you to reach out to me on LinkedIn, ask what we've got coming up. We've got some lunch and learn sessions. I've got a niche down and scale up masterclass coming up. So please don't hesitate to reach out on LinkedIn. You can find me at PeitaMD, PEITAMD. Otherwise, I'll look forward to turning up in your earbuds next week. And remember, Advice Explorers, stay curious.